in this lecture we will discuss part of this lecture series, the action plan at every level which is required for the housing planning and the development. In the last lecture, which was lecture 38, we discussed the management aspect of the housing. In the management aspect, we discuss that after the policy planning and the development, the management requires lot of people to maintain and manage the property, to manage the infrastructure created, the building created, and it has several stages like sales and marketing, like registration and legal elements, and then it have the possession and the occupancy, then the facility management, common area maintenance, and then the regular repair and reconstruction work. So, for all this kind of work, it is required to appoint the third party agency or any other organization who are equipped to do all these kind of facilities, but ultimately it is the residents association who takes care of the housing project, because they are the community, they are the owner of that particular area and particular project. So, having discussed this part, management part, we could identify that at the policy level, at the planning level, development level, at the management level, various stakeholders are involved. But the thing is, in today's context, we will find that at every stake there are problems and issues in housing development. So, today we will discuss that every level what are the issues involved and what are the major actions required by each stakeholder. That will be the final discussion in this lecture series, because next day we will discuss about the course summary. We will discuss few more elements which we could not touch up or we could not cover, so that in future if you are interested you can take up those areas. So, let us see the basic stages of the housing planning and development. So, we started with the discussion on policy, then we discussed planning, development, and then management. So, we discussed that this is a very important cycle in the housing development. Now, what are the issues? You will find that at the policy level, so far after the independence, I mean after so many interventions by the government of India and several state government, now we are in a position to conceptualize, to visualize that we need housing for all within a given stipulated period. And not only that, we have taken with the policy few more reforms. So, reforms. So, without reforms the policy may not work. For example, let us take the case of land. Now, in the policy it is mentioned that without the land housing project cannot be done, and to assemble large amount of land, every state government has to take out the acts like ULSRA, Urban Land Ceiling Act, and not only that, it is proposed that every state government can slowly institutionalize participatory based land assembly method like land readjustment, but in actual practice some of the state governments are yet to do all this kind of reform. So, without the reform the policy cannot be given maximum benefit before the planning stage. So, reform is basically the discipline which is required for making policy effective before the planning comes. So, here we need basically the willingness by political units, willingness by the government to institutionalize the reforms, because without reform we cannot have the policy which is fruitful for the planning stages. That is the number one stage. Number two, with the willingness of the political party and the government setups at every level, it is required that at the administrative level because whatever we do like planning or development and then management, it is ultimately the governance at the state level or the local level which encompasses all the activities, not only the housing, every infrastructure development, every construction work, every design and engineering works. So it is the administration at every level which is whose effectiveness matters. So administration need to be effective, need to be faster than the previous administration. So for that you need to institutionalize various reforms. We are not going into much details of the discussion, but you may take a note that the government of India and the other state government, time to time they have mentioned various administrative reforms. Administrative reform committees are made, and time to time they provide stipulations and recommendations so that the administration become faster. For example, if you want to have a planning at every city or every village authority, who will administer that planning? Who are the people sitting in the administration? So they should be able to conceptualize, internalize and execute and take action for the planning at the ground level. For that reason, and not only that, for any development work you need all the approvals and sanctions time to time. So for all those approvals and sanctions you need to take a sanction from the administrative people. So administration need to be effective. At the planning stage, the basic problem at the planning stage is the lack of manpower. We have seen that at the urban local level where the maximum plan and the strategy works need to be done, there are not any technical persons in the working in the urban local bodies, except few development authorities and town planning authority. In the urban local bodies they do not have any qualified planners. So that is one major problem in the planning. Now lack of manpower also linked with the willingness of the government. Now this is possible if a kind of a regular institutionalization of the cadre system, planning cadre system at every level is done. Right now we have the town and country planning organization at the central level and the state level, but at the apex level it is there, but at the local level it is not there. Therefore the qualified professional now we must also explain that it is not only planners, physical planners, it is like infrastructure experts are also required to be inducted at every level. So for this maybe a cadre system could be required. That is the second issue. And not only that, wherever the cadres or the professionals are there, it is also required to develop capacity. I give an example that for all centrally funded or centrally sponsored programs like say JNNURM or Rajiv Awas Yojana or recently Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So all the programs ultimately are executed through the local bodies, but in the local bodies they have hardly one or two engineers, or in some cases one planners, but they have to do so many works in so many diverse work to conceptualize, take the permission, making the report, appointing the third party, appointing the consultants and executing the project, maintenance of the project, supervise of the project. So in the urban local body level you need a capacity in terms of their knowledge, knowledge and skill, how to develop more updated knowledge about the planning and the infrastructure development and how to apply it. And second part, you need to develop capacity in terms of environment. We are talking about the working environment, which is nothing but but consisting of essential equipments, essential softwares, essential facilities without which any professionals, any person cannot work. So, those kind of capacity building activities need to be there. At the development stage, we discuss it is the role of the developer which is very important. Developers. So, at the development phase, it is the main issue is the transparency and accountability. In the last to last lecture, we discussed the rule like Real Estate Regulation Act. In the Real Estate Regulation Act, several stipulations, several mandates are given for all the real estate developer, so that they can come out with a transparent and accountable service. Now, the major issue is the formation of regulatory formation of real estate regulatory body at the state level, so that they can steer the whole process. Now, in this formation of real estate regulatory bodies, the state government has to very judiciously select the persons who are really effective and really expert on the subject area, so that they can, there could be experts on the physical planning, there could be experts like architects, engineers, there could be experts like say infrastructure professional, and of course there will be experts like financial experts, so that they can, financial and legal expert. So, those kind of formation of real estate regulatory body is essential. Then not only body, they have to frame the So, under the Real Estate Regulation Act, every state government has to frame the rules and regulation how the act will be workable at every level. So, that is another thing. Another part which I should mention at the planning level and also development level, that at the state level and the local level, right now we do not have any mechanism of making a land banking. Please try to understand that land is the one single most very important element in housing development which matters most, because unless the land is not there, you cannot develop any project, you cannot do anything. So, even if you repeal the land ceiling regulation and regulation act, even if you do all the land reform, but after that the land banking is required at every level, the land banking is required at the planning level, and it will help in the development. So, at the planning level, so for making a land bank, several stages are need to be done at the urban local body level and the regional level, like preparation of the base map of the city, taking the land data, making an inventory of the land. We discussed thoroughly when we discussed the land management part, but that land, for that land banking mechanism and land management, the capacity is not there by the urban local bodies and the planners and professional. So, for them the land banking mechanism can be institutionalized, by developing their capacity and also facilitate them. It is not only the capacity, we have to facilitate the process through the state government, so that the whole thing is possible to be executed. So, at the development phase, it is the developer's role, and also developers, and we also mentioned here the builders. There are other stakeholders like say material suppliers, One very important issue is quality control, how the quality control is possible. In some part of the country, we have seen that the material suppliers and the material suppliers and the quality control in the material supplying activities are not possible, and because of that the low quality construction is happening. It can happen in any time, any place in the country if you are not vigilant, if you are not taking adequate action for ensuring the quality in terms of the material and its supply chain. So that is possible only when your a robust administration and robust capacity building will be there at every level. Now we come to the management level. In the management level, we talked about the residents association last day. Before residents association come into the picture, there are various organizations like third party organization, who are involved in marketing. We discussed in the last day this aspect. Then your sales, then common area maintenance, facility management. All these activities can be given to third party organization as a outsourcing work. So this type of activities could be outsourced to third party agency. Now since the residents association, they controls, or they are supposed to control the operation of the third party organization to execute these works, not exactly the marketing and sales, but after the possession, the common area maintenance and facility management. So there the role of the residents association is very, very important. Right now few state government, they have the modalities to frame the residents association in terms of Apartment Ownership Act, sometimes it is governed by the Cooperative Act. I discussed in the Cooperative Housing section, Cooperative Housing Act. So whatever is the act, I mean under any act, so if the state government does not have the required legal frame to institutionalize the residents association, they have to do it, because without that it is not possible, or it could be very much informal. And transparency will not be there. If it is done under some act and there are some mandates, so the formation of the association will be transparent, its transactions will be transparent, the benefit of that transparent transaction will be possible to get by the end users. So that is the objective. So after the residents association is framed, it is their job to supervise all the common area maintenance and facility management done by the third party organization. So here another important part is that in the overall governance scenario, we discussed that we have a third tier governance structure in our country, like central government, then state government and local government. So in urban area, it is basically the ward committee, So ward committee is consisting of various representation from the various sectors of the society. Now one very important part could be integrated, that if we have residents association from various communities, like in group housing we talk about the gated community, and gated community so gated community sometimes criticized because of their activities confined within the gated complex, and they seldom interact with the other complexes or other people. So one approach could be that in the ward committee level, all the gated committee, all the residents association and gated community, they can take part and they can be involved in the ward committee level, so that the common people, they have a direct representation through their residents association and gated community, and then to the ward committee, so that their voice and their requirement reach to the local level, state level and central level. Because Other than that, within the campus, maybe the on campus facilities are available, and those are very much in the good condition, but off campus or off campus facilities like basic services, water supply, street lights, the basic access and everything, those are dependent on the overall government structure and overall city development. So, for all those kind of facility, a direct communication channel from the residents association or gated community through the ward committee can be there, so that they can represent to the local level. So, this is the overall actions and roles required at every level, starting from the policy level, planning level, development level and management level. One very important issue in this stage is that since in the land use we discussed that housing takes more than 50%. Housing is a predominant land use which take more than 50%. So, after all these activities, whatever we see in our cities, how the cities are developed, good, bad or whatever is the learning, we never get its feedback or the assessment, and we take that assessment to the policy level. One of the major reason for this lacuna of this knowledge gap or this feedback gap is that we do not have the systematic documentation process of the housing development. So, how we can systematic documentation process of housing and property. For example, every state government has their land department. Under the land department, they have the documentation process of the land property, land as a property. But when you talk about the housing, the informations are not available with the municipalities or the urban local bodies. So, sometimes they tell us that the informations are not available. Maybe the information at the holding level, that how many buildings are available, that is maybe possible and available, but otherwise the typology of the building, the residence, the typology of the units and its performance, its timeline when it was developed, no information are available. And as a result of that, we at this city level, when we start making a strategy or assessment plan or for the further development, further planning, it becomes very difficult to get the data or to get the actual assessment of the existing situation. So, as a result of that, either the project becomes delayed, either the planning becomes delayed, or we end up in wrong planning, and wrong planning leads to wrong development leads to the wrong feedback. So, that is the vicious cycles what we are having right now. So, what can be done, that we can integrate the documentation process of the housing and the property at the urban local body level, so that it can be taken up by the local government level. But this is not a different aspect in the overall planning and development. It is a part and parcel of overall development. So, the documentation process for the housing can be taken care of by some other along with other infrastructure and development, like say solid waste management, water supply, mobility, etc. So, with this we conclude this discussion, that in this discussion we discuss basically the role of the various stakeholders at the policy level, planning level, development level and management level, and also we touched upon the issues what they faced at every level, and how those issues can be taken care of, and how those issues can be overcome by using enhanced capacity at the every level, using political willingness and the administrative reform, and few other process and systems in place at every level we can do. So, in the next lecture we will basically discuss some of the course lectures, and we will touch upon some of the issues which we could not cover in the lectures, but if based on your interest you can take up those element or the lectures in the later time as per your convenience. So, thank you for participation. Thank you.